Hey, this is Markie. Thank you for joining us in Season 1, 2021 edition of Design with Markie, 5 days free virtual graphic design crash course. And today we'll be making a product package design. So let us jump into Adobe Illustrator. We're making a product package design. Let's go ahead to create new, just as we did in Photoshop. So that here is the option to create a new document. You will always ask a client to give you specification about the dimensions and all that. So you should get details from a client or the one who will be printing the product packages before you can even start your project. So the unit for measurement is inches. We're going to do 10 inches by 14. That will work well for this particular project. We can work with RGB and change that later on. It's 10 by 14 inches. It's in a portrait. Remember, for the posters we were doing a landscape, but for this particular kind of design we are doing a portrait. And go ahead and hit create. So if you can't see everything and you want to view all of your artboard, you can go over to view, scroll down to fit artboard in window, and then from there you'll be able to see everything in your work. So here we have our artboard for the design. I said Illustrator is similar to Photoshop in a way, almost the same tools. There is no much difference between the two. So we're going to do a product package design for chocolate chip cookies. We have the tool list in Adobe Illustrator in case it's your first time. We have a selection tool, we have the direct selection tool, a pen tool, a curvature tool, we have a rectangle tool, a type tool, and under the type tool we have type on path tool, vertical type tool, touch type tool, vertical area, and also area type tool. So many of them, okay, but you'll use each depending on the kind of project that you are working on. And again, we also have this gradient tool. You can use it to create gradients in your design. So let's begin. We might need something like a seal to be applied on our project, and also a logo for that matter. So maybe we can go ahead and start with giving this a title. So here is the layers panel in Adobe Illustrator. You can see it's almost similar to Photoshop. As I said, you can always move that aside by dragging it from the top, drag it to a place from where you can work best with. So we have the properties panel and the layer panel. Those are the main panels we'll be working with in this project. So let's go ahead and create a text layer. Grab the pen tool. Let's make that font big. We have the character panel here, just as in Adobe Photoshop. Let's make it big. Maybe choose a bigger font. You can also enlarge it by holding down the shift key and dragging it out. So let's give our product a name, Mark, then chocolate. Don't worry about that, we are going to adjust the font size. Alright, so you can always use these sliders to move to the left or to the right. So we have this slider here, and you also have another one right here. You can use them to drag up and down. So you can either use the horizontal or vertical sliders. You can always go to view and fit artboard in window so that you get a full view of your work. So there we have the title, Mark chocolate chip cookies. So this is going to work as a good sample for this project. We can go ahead and start building the design of this, how we want our product to look like. So let's go and grab something like the pen tool, so that you can create a design. Remember, we said that you need to practice a lot on the use of a pen tool so that you master it so well. To avoid maybe some of the mistakes people make, okay? So you can always use the guides, that is especially when you want to be very accurate, okay? You can always use these guides, they will be good for you. And let us create something. And complete that. You can go to the move tool. It doesn't look so good for me, so let's change that and do a different design. You can always break a point by pressing down the Alt key, and then that will work good for you. And complete that. So if you want to change that fill, you can go over to properties. You have the fill and stroke. Maybe you can click on the fill color and change it to a different color. So don't worry about the space which is outside the design. It's not going to appear since it's not inside of this artboard. And maybe we can go ahead and fine tune it so that we snap it to the edges of our artboard. Want something smooth. So I'm good with that. Let's go ahead and add an image. Go to File, and then from the options you go to Place. Your folders are going to open, and then you can select an image from here. If this is what you want to use, you can go ahead, select that and click Place, okay? Double click on your image and place it. So once you have it there, you can right click on it, go to Arrange, and send it to back. You might want to create a background layer, maybe just around this artboard. Once that is done, you can set the color of your background. Right click on it, arrange, and send it to back, so that works as our background throughout. So let's go ahead and work on our fonts. So you can break that into two. And remember, in product package design, the most important parts should be bigger and maybe more bold. Just a little alignment here and there. And maybe we might want to change this font. So from our layers panel, in the properties panel, you can see this option for the fonts. Maybe I might want to use a different font, Railway. You can download it from the web, Railway, the Railway font. Same to this. Set the font style, that is a Railway semi-bold. And the same to that one. Maybe you want to make this a little bigger than this. Or leave it just as it is. Remember, for this kind of design, you will have to leave some space from the top here to leave space for maybe a seal and any folding which might be made in the final product package. So we don't want to fill up everything to the top because it may really mess us up. There's some little more adjustments to this. We might want to change the color of our font as well. So you can go ahead to select your font, your type, that is. In the properties panel, you have the appearance, the fill, the stroke, and opacity. So go over to the fill and select a color of your choice from the options below, or you can select the color that best works for you. You can also go for this, which is close to the chocolate one. So with that, we have a name, we have maybe the company name, a good sample. So you can always zoom out to check how your work is. At this level, we might want to extend it to the back so that we are working on a front and back design simultaneously. So how do we resize our artboard so that we have the front and back at the same time? We may not want to do the front, finish it, and then come back to do that. Maybe want to do them at the same time. So to change the size of your canvas, you go to File, Document Setup. Once you load up Document Setup, go to Edit Artboards. Edit Artboards. Well, so you can see that we have a width of 10 inches and the height is 14. We're not interested in changing the height. The only thing that we are changing is the width of our document. So we can double this. It was initially 10, so we can make that 20 and click Enter. Good. Once that is done, we go ahead and select them all, Control G to group, and then move them to the side. Just make sure that it snips to the borders of your canvas. Good, so we have the front. Let's do the back. You can make a few adjustments so that everything is well lined up. Let's go ahead and ungroup them, and maybe we want this same design to be applied to the back, so you can hold down the Alt key, double clicking, let me ungroup that. We don't want to interfere with all of those, so we want each element as an individual element. So to duplicate this, hold down the Alt key and drag it towards the left. Let's move it a little bit. Just want to make sure that everything is in order. So you might choose to have this color or choose a different one. You can always use a pen tool, the eyedropper tool, to pick any color of your choice, the one that works best for you. Let's hide that panel and go back to our back design. So what do we want to add to the back of this design? Maybe you can realize that the logo is missing, the company logo, and maybe a seal, that is if it's needed, but we're just doing this really fast to demonstrate the general overview of doing it. Let me enlarge this a little bit so that it's not leaving spaces. We don't want our design to look bad. Good. So for the back, you might want to add the nutrition facts, the ingredients, and maybe a brief description of your product. But you will always ask a client to send you the nutrition value. That is not your work as a designer. You are only receiving that information from a client. So always ask for the nutrition facts, for the ingredients, as well as a brief description of the product. Let me load up another document and then grab the nutrition facts from that. I'll give a download link. It's a free one, so you can use it. This is my previous design, the one I shared with you. We can go over to the nutrition facts. Want to bring it here. Nutrition facts. The client should also send you a barcode for their product, and that you should always ask them to provide you with those details. So I'm just using these resources which are available for download in the internet, and they will work for you. Maybe we can change the fill to something which is visible and legible. So let's see what else we are adding here. Good, so let's line up our work and see whether we can add more graphic elements. So we said you should be leaving out some space for the seal, which will be on the top of this document. So don't fill everything up. You need to leave some space there, okay? So that when the work is printed, details are not appearing on the seal unless that is what the client wants. So you can make your nutrition facts small. And let's add a brief product description. You might want to make that font a little smaller from the characters panel. course, the client will give you the description, so you will just be pasting the client's work in here. There is just a sample of something that you might want to add to maybe that brief description about the particular product that you're working on. Remember, a client will also provide this for you. Let's copy this so that we can add the ingredients. Let me move it to the bottom of the nutrition facts. Sugar, wheat, what else can we add? Maybe something like natural flavors. Good, let's work on this font. Maybe change it to something different. The railway bold can do for that. So make sure that there's enough room from the margin to where your text is, both for the front and back design, so that your work is not trimmed out during printing. You want something good. So we have a brief description of our product and the ingredients as well. Let's give our a background by drawing another shape right here. Right click on it, select arrange, and then send to back. Go to the layers panel, open the properties panel to change the color of your background. That is the color or the fill type or the fill color. You can use the eyedropper tool to select a color of your own, so that maybe you have a white in the front and this turquoise color in the back of your design. Let's also change the color of our font, and let's see whether it will be good. It's not so legible. We'll align these shapes with time, so don't be worried about that. Let's first of all find a good background color. Possibly change this one, or make the bottom white. And make our barcode black. Maybe we also want to work on this company name. Of course, 1350 is unrealistic, so I'm just using it for this class, okay? Maybe we might want to add it right below our barcode. Our design is coming up well, so let's go ahead and fine-tune it. I'm still I'm not happy yet with these colors, so let's do something more, especially the background. Okay, first of all, let me adjust the alignment. Let's find a different color. Maybe that can work. You can always use the eyedropper tool to make a selection of a particular color. So we have the brief description of the product, the ingredients, a barcode, and the company name, the front and the back. Also, maybe you might want to add something else. Let me see. Let me zoom out and see how it looks. See whether we can find another cool color for that font and see what works best for us. That one doesn't look so nice. Maybe that white is a little bit better. But with client work, you will of course be provided with such details, things to do with the color, the design, and all that. So mark chocolate chip cookies. So let's go ahead and line up these shapes. We want them to be uniform. So you might want to hold down the Alt key, maybe make adjustments to that. Move them a little bit and make sure that they are aligned. So that we have something presentable. You can always zoom in to make sure that everything is okay. You can bring that down a little bit. That's better. We don't have, I think what is remaining is a logo and maybe a seal for this product. So we might want to do a quick seal for your product. And how do you go about that? We want to make one really quick. So maybe it's just a badge which you want to put in this product. So in the rectangle tool, right click on it to reveal the ellipse tool. Okay, let me just draw it here. Let's make it smaller. There's so many ways of creating badges. You just need to get creative. Go to Effect, Distort and Transform. Maybe you want to use Parker and Blot. Let's try that and see how it looks. Once you select that, be sure to enable the preview. And you can control how that badge or your shape appears. So you can always do that. Let's assume that is what we want. Maybe click OK. But want to draw another shape inside this. Let's make sure that we align the two. So to align two objects, you click on one, hold down the Shift key, click on the second one, and from the Properties panel, at the bottom you can see the horizontal align to center, and then the vertical align to center. So you'll see that we have aligned them. If you zoom out or zoom in, you will see that the two are aligned so well. Maybe we might want to add some text in this. We just want a simple badge. That font is too big. Let's bring it down to a 21 point. Remember to align. So select each one of them, align horizontally. You don't have to do a vertical align for the text. You can do that manually. You can change the color of your text by heading to the Properties panel and selecting on the color. So let's see how that looks. Or just change this to the logo for this product, okay? And then make that font a little bit bigger. Remember to align your work by using the center align tool, horizontal align to center. So let's see. You can use the eyedropper tool to select a different color. And once done, you can bring down the font size, or from the fill option, select that and choose your own color. Just choose what works best for you. Let me undo that. We can do white for that. Preferably change the fill color of our design. Good, so we can go ahead and select each of these elements, press Ctrl G to group them. We might want to bring it to the top, hold down the Alt key and drag it up, and I'll make it smaller. You can bring it slightly above that product and also send it to the back of the design. For the back, you might need to do some changes to the color, of course. That is why when designing a logo, you can always provide variations. Let's go ahead and ungroup that. We can change that fill color. Use the eyedropper tool to pick a color of your own. You might want to space out this mark. We talked about character tracking in Adobe Photoshop yesterday. So to add tracking, select that layer where you want to add more space between these characters. Go to the properties panel. Under the character, we have this menu right here. Of course, you can use that to select, to reveal more options if you can't see that, or it will directly appear from these. Okay, so locate where you have the tracking, that is if your tracking doesn't appear in the first place. So if we do a 20, that is how the spacing is. Maybe we can increase that to make it a little bit more spaced out. Let's try a 100. So we are finalizing and then head over to Adobe Dimension to do a mockup and render our work. Just cross-checking to make sure that everything is in place. Working on some alignments. Zooming out, we're good to go. Remember, that's just a sample. The client will give you the correct details for their product. You can align it to the text above. Let's go ahead and save our work file. Save as. Once you select save as Illustrator file, you'll just have this menu popping up. Version, you don't have to change anything right here. Make sure to, if you want to create a compatible PDF file, you can do that. Go ahead and. So remember we started with RGB color mode, but we may want to change that to CMYK because this will be printed. So go to file to change the color mode, file, and then document color mode. We have CMYK and RGB, so we can change that to CMYK. So it may not be so bright, but it's good for printing. You can see this is editable, and if the printer does not have this font installed, it's going to bring up an error message. To make sure that we outline everything, press Ctrl and A. This shape was already outlined, so we may not need to include it there, as well as this one, and go over to type and then create outlines, or simply press Shift Control and O, Shift Control and the O key in the keyboard to create outlines. Once done, you'll see that now this is no longer an editable text, and that will be good for printing. So now that we have the front and back of our design and we want to export the front only and the back only, how do we do that? Go to File and Document Setup. Once this document setup menu opens, you go to Edit Artboards. So with that selected, we have this artboard outline, so it's a whole, the front and the back of our document, but maybe that is not what we want to export. We just want to export the front as an image and the back as a JPEG image too. So let's drag our artboard towards the left where that intersection is. So you will see where the two intersect. Make sure that your document aligns to this. Let's fine-tune that. You click on that artboard once, here from the top, then go over to File, Export, and then Export As. Once you export as, you can change this to a JPEG. Select JPEG and be sure to check the Use Artboards option, and then click Export. Color mode, it may bring up this menu. JPEG options, color mode is CMYK, quality you can use 10, resolution 300, and click OK, and your JPEG will be exported. So let's go over to the Edit Artboard tool once more. File, we want to export the back, Document Setup, Edit Artboards. So let's move these artboards, let's let it snip to the back of our design. That is where we have the intersection. Go over and select that artboard. You want to be sure that everything is aligned to this artboard. You can always zoom in to do that. So drag this to that point of intersection, just so that you be sure about it. That's good. So click on that artboard, go to File, Export, Export As. It's still JPEG. Make sure to check Use Artboards. Now we are going to add back to our name and click Export. CMYK quality, you can retain the maximum and hit OK. So we have now exported the front and back of our designs. So we can go back to our artboard so that we make sure everything is within the selection, that we can export a separate file for print. Okay, so for print you usually export the two in one big PDF. In one PDF, you don't have to separate, so that they can be printed as one. Remember, they're usually printed on maybe a paper or any material that will be used for the packaging, and then they will be folded or made into the desired way. So we want to do one copy for exporting as what? We're going to export it as a PDF, okay? And then maybe some of the things you might want to consider before exporting for print. Make sure to leave room for the seals at the top here. Don't make use a lot of space. Be sure to leave some space here for your seal. And if this is too close to the margins, we'll have to come back to Adobe Illustrator to make those adjustments, to just make sure that they are moved a little bit lower so that they don't distract you. And of course, this may be too close. I can already see that. Let me make that a slight adjustment. Let me group these objects. Control G. Make it smaller. And I can have them at the top of these. So I just want to make sure that I have enough space at the top, and also from the margins. We don't want any part of our work cropped out. We want everything to appear in the design perfectly. So let's go ahead and export the back once more, because we've made some changes. So file, export as JPEG. Be sure to check use artboards. It's the back. So export, it's going to prompt us to replace the existing file. So we'll just go ahead. If it does request us to maybe replace it with the existing file which we had exported in the first place. So this is the checklist for exporting or saving for print. Make sure that these areas, they are not filled, the folding areas, of course. Maybe there is nothing that should come over here, and also you should leave enough margin for printing, leave out this space for the seal. Also, be sure to outline your strokes and paths. Remember, we highlighted everything, went to object and created outlines. That is something else you should check. And also make sure to change your document color mode to CMYK, because that is best for print. Make sure there's proper alignment, and you will be good to go. So we want to go ahead and save this as a PDF, a good one for our design. I don't know why these shapes are not so good. We might need to change that for some reasons. So you can go ahead and choose the rectangle tool. Let me just change that shape, because if it spills over to the other side, it will give us trouble. With that selected, you can right click on it, arrange, and then send to back. This is the background. Right click on it, arrange. The background, of course, should be at the very back of our document, same as this one. Arrange, send to back. Okay. you can just adjust it to clip to the artboard. You can maybe go ahead and make it smaller, let it clip to that, and duplicate it by holding down the Alt key and dragging it to the left. Make it clip to the artboard from all edges, and then you might want to change this fill color. Use the eyedropper tool to select that, and of course you can see that we have a perfect alignment. So that is something you really have to pay attention to. From the top, bottom, from all sides, you should make sure that you are clipping your work to the artboard. So let's go ahead and export it once more because of the changes we just made to our design. So you can go to File, export that once more as a JPEG. Be sure to use artboards. This is going to be our back design. Click export. Color mode is CMYK. Let's go over and select the next artboard. Remember, we only have the first one highlighted. So how do we select the other artboard? Go to File, Document Setup, Edit Artboards. So we're going to move this artboard over to the front by just using the drag option. Make sure it clips to that. You will see that intersection, of course. Let's go to File, Export, Export As, and then we're going to rename these to our front design. Hit Export. Same settings. Well, so we now want to export everything as a PDF. Remember, I gave the checklist for our work. So let's go back to File, Document Setup, Edit Artboards. So we want to put everything within one artboard so that we can export it as one big PDF document. So you can see everything is highlighted and in perfect shape. One more time, just for a reminder, make sure you've left room at the top for seals. Number two thing, make sure there is proper alignment of your work. Be sure to use the CMYK color mode. Leave enough margins from the edges so that your work is not cropped out. Also, create outlines for both shapes for any stroke and again for the fonts and also the strokes. So just create outlines for everything, any stroke you've used anywhere, and that's it. So let's go ahead and save this as a printable PDF. This is what will now be sent to the manufacturer. Let's say is a company like think of any company, the one you've designed for. This is now what will be printed for their products. So let's go ahead to File, Save As, and from this option select Adobe PDF and name it as a cookies maybe printable cookies. Give your document a name and hit save. So this option, now pay attention to this because this is the technical part. We want to make sure that we don't preserve editing capabilities. We don't want it to be an editable PDF because it will make our PDF so big and that is unnecessary. So uncheck that And then everything else general, there's nothing that you are changing here. In the compression, you don't have to change anything. You can do everything as it is. Marks and bleeds, we may not need to add any marks and bleeds, but in case a client asks you to add any marks and bleeds for your design, you can add bleeds from the start. And also, if you don't have marks, make that customizations if the client has requested you to do that. So having made sure that we have unchecked preserve Illustrator editing capabilities, now go ahead and click save PDF. And once you do that, your file will be saved and ready for print. So we are done with the product packaging design, that is the front and the back of it. And now I want us to head over to Adobe Dimension and do a realistic mockup. This is Adobe Dimension. We use it for creating realistic mockups when you want to present your work to the client. We want something professional, okay? So once you open Adobe Dimension, it doesn't have actually a lot when it comes to creating documents. Just go ahead and hit create new. But in case your machine doesn't support Adobe Dimension or doesn't meet the minimum requirements, you can always download mockups and do it in Adobe Photoshop. That will still work perfectly. So maybe it's the first time you're opening Adobe Dimension and you don't know what all this is, but of course it's one of my best tools. So maybe we can view some of these tools briefly before we do our mockup. But I love doing it when we are practicing what we've already done. So we have two main options. Design, this is where you do all your design work. And in design work, we have, let's leave out the tools first. We have the models. These are the 3D models which are pre-installed in Adobe Dimension. If you click on one, it will be loaded. You will have your model there once you click on it once. Let me undo that. If you click on another model, maybe this beverage can. Good, and there we have our can. Actually, there's a project I did. It's called the Mark Whiskey can. You can view it in my public Behance portfolio at Mark Mumangi. Good. So let's go ahead and view more of this. So we said from these we have these models, these 3D models. If you scroll down with this slider here, you have materials, glass, the glowing might, we have wax, plastic, metallic, gold, diamond, and all that. We also have lights, the different types of lighting, and also images, which of course can be used as our backgrounds for the particular designs. So that is a brief overview. And then, well, let's delete this. We don't want to use that. Now that we have designed our product package in Adobe Illustrator and we want to bring it into Adobe Dimension, do a mockup of the front and the back of our card, of our product. How do we go about that? So the first thing you're going to do is select the kind of package that you want to do. So we just want, you can use a food bag or use a food pouch, but then for this one, let's just click. You can click and drag or click once. If you click and drag, it's still okay, or click once, your model will be loaded into Adobe Dimension, and from there you will be able to make some adjustments. Let's go ahead and add our design and then learn more about some of these tools and how to use them. So from this scene, we have environment, we have the camera, and we have the food pouch. the food pouch is what we are working on right now. Extend this menu by clicking on this icon to reveal the drop down list. So in this, you're going to see that we have the bag material, and we now want to add our graphic work. How do we do that? Right below this, make sure that this bag material is selected because we are adding the design onto that food pouch, that 3D model. Okay, with this selected, go to actions, and in actions, place graphic on model. So let's go over to our folder where we saved our files, the JPEG ones. Navigate to our folder design with Markie. Product design, and then you might want to start with the front. Select front and click open. Once you open, your graphic work is going to load, and then it will be placed into that 3D model. So you can see our graphic is there, but maybe it's not so clear, and we want to make some adjustments to it. So we have the select and move tool. The good thing with Adobe is when you hover over a tool, it will give you a brief description of what that tool is and maybe tell you what the tool does. Okay, so the selection and move tool, it will of course help you to bring maybe up overlays which help you to move, to scale, to rotate 3D objects in the selected axis. So this select and move tool will help you, number one, to move. It can help you to scale. It can help you to also maybe rotate your work depending on the kind of tool that you have selected. Okay, good. So let's use this tool. When that blue highlight appears, it means that our 3D model is now seated like on the ground. Let me use that. It perfectly sits on the ground of it, but then you can make further adjustments to that. Yeah, that one is okay. With that one, we are good to go. You can also use it to do quite a number of things. And maybe which other tool can we use? Below this, if you see this arrow, it means that there are more tools, but you don't have to change that for now. We have the select and scale tool. We have the rotate tool. If you want to make a rotation, you can see this menu appears, of course. So you can either use these arrows to rotate your model. You want to view the back, you can use this rotate tool. We also want to rotate it along this axis. That is how you do it. To just get the best view. Okay, maybe let's say that we are good with that. We might want to change our view to fit canvas. This is how everything looks, and below that we also have the magic wand tool. It can help you select maybe smaller pieces of complex object. So every time you are selecting a tool, you hover over it, you are going to see stuff very well. You're going to see an overview of what that tool is about and what it does. If you click on this orbit tool, maybe it will help you make a rotation of everything. Okay, remember we are moving everything right now, but for the orbit, sorry, for the previous tool, which was the select and rotate, we were only moving the model, but with this one orbit tool, you are moving everything. Good. The other one is the pan tool. It can help you maybe drag your camera up or down. That is the work of the pan tool. And below it we have the dolly tool. It can help you move maybe your camera forward and back. Maybe you just want to get that clean view. You can use that tool. It's handy for that job. And below that we have the horizontal tool. So we may not need to use that. We may not need to raise anything, to adjust anything. So let's go back to our selection tool and align our design into this model. So in the scenes, select the food porch, expand this menu, click on the graphic. So you will see this kind of orbit around it. You can use this option for rotation. You can rotate to the left or to the right, either way. From the middle, you can move it to the left, you can move it to the right, you can move it down, you can move it up, just depending on where you want to position your design. But maybe before that, okay, let's go ahead and make some adjustment to our graphic model. If you hold down the shift key, your design will be resized uniformly. Hold down the shift key and drag. I hope you can now see the reason why I told you that you should leave enough space at the margins. Okay, you can see that none of my design is being clipped out. So that is the importance of leaving out enough space for the margins so that your work sits perfectly well in that design. You can click outside it to view it, and maybe we might want to rotate it a little bit. So go back to this tool, double click on the graphic element to reveal the rotate tool. Maybe it's slightly tilted, and of course you might want to make some tiny adjustments just to touch everything up and to make sure everything is lined up within the margin. But remember, this design will run to the back. It is kind of wrapping to the front and the back, so you just need to do something good so that you present something neat to your client. Okay, so you can change this rotation to 0 degrees manually. Click enter. That is how it looks at 0 degrees. But because maybe the 3D model is lying in a different shape or rotation or angle of, is it inclination, yeah, whichever, then just adjust it manually so that it fits perfectly well into that model. So click outside that. Let's go to, we can see this lighting is too bad. We don't want this kind of work. Okay, it looks realistic, but again it looks maybe not so good. It's not so presentable. I'm not yet good with this rotation. Let me just fine tune it a little bit and then I'll be back. That is good. Let us now work on the lighting. So you can use this select and rotate tool to adjust the kind of view you want for your design. Okay, yeah, you can always use that select and rotate tool. So if you rotate it and view the back, you will see that maybe there's nothing on the back because we've not added that back design, but I'll be showing you in a minute how we also do a mock-up for the back. So let's go ahead and work on that lighting. So you can go to environment. In the scenes, make sure you select the environment and use this slider to move up and down. We have the option with everything selected. Go back to the environment. So we have environment light. If you can toggle, if you don't enable the environment light, of course, you can't see anything. So you need environment light to be here. And you can control the intensity of your light using this slider. You can either make it dim or bright, just as you desire. You can also adjust the rotation of your light. Let me bring this down a little bit. Let me leave it at 100. That is perfect. Let's check the rotation. So as I move the rotation, you will see the rotation of the light on this product. Where do you want your light to be in the product? Okay, so just adjust it a little bit. I think that one will work for me. I don't want it to cover our design. I don't want it to cover our content because I want to present some good work to the client. Okay, that is the rotation. And maybe if you enable the sunlight, you will see that sunlight is appearing, and then there is a shadow casted behind our design. So if you can't see shadows, it means that maybe you've not enabled the sunlight. So there's nowhere to maybe where the shadow is being casted. So once you enable the sunlight, you can adjust the intensity of it. Maybe bring it down a little bit, be something like a 40%. That is looks good. You can adjust also the cloudiness depending on what you desire. You can also adjust the height, the rotation of the sunlight. Maybe you want it to match the design, of course. So with the sunlight, you don't have to master things to do with maybe where your shadow is casted, because that will happen. That will be done by Adobe Dimension. It will of course cast the shadow where it's supposed to be. So let's go ahead and add a background to our image. Maybe from this panel, let's scroll down using this slider and select this table background. Good. So you can see that our design is floating. We want to move it to the bottom. So you can go over to environment, and from the actions you have match image. So let's see, Adobe Dimension can automatically help you align everything in things to do with resizing the canvas, creating environment light, matching the sunlight, and also matching the camera perspective. It will just take some seconds for those effects to be applied. So as you can see, the match image option has automatically lined up everything, adjustment, they made some adjustments to the light and all that. But if you're not okay with this lighting, you can go over to the lighting and make your own adjustments. Okay, you don't have to fully rely on it. You can do it by yourself, maybe by selecting different lighting options, and that will be good for you. So you can change. You see it is matching to this image, and there are so many of them. For example, if you want to use something like a studio light, we select that, it's going to be matched to that. Maybe you can adjust the intensity by either bringing it up or down. Just making the necessary adjustments. and be sure to enable the sunlight. So you can leave it as it is. Maybe we are good with this and we want to do a back. Okay, before we proceed, if you want to render your image, you can do a render preview of this. That is a preview of what the final image will be like. So you can come over to this menu and show render preview. It will be processing your image in like real time and then updating you on how the final product will look like. But you can always close that and do it later. So you can also create a bookmark. Let's say if you're rotating an image and you see a view which is good for you, it is good to create a bookmark. So you can save this view as maybe my view. Once that is saved, if you come back to this rotation, select your product and move it, add it to bookmarks, select the add option and then view 2, click enter. Let me just see which view is going to be best for this design. Maybe call that best view. So that's how you can use bookmarks. And maybe you've not saved your work, we can go ahead to file, save as. This is our mark chip cookies, click enter. And now we have our project saved as an Adobe Dimension editable file. So let's go over, duplicate this and create a design for the back of our product. Good. So with that selected, let's go to the move tool. You can press Ctrl C and Ctrl V. Those are the shortcuts for maybe the copy and paste options. I believe they are not new terms. Okay, so we want to have a front and a back of our design. So it's upon us to decide where we want to position the front and the back of the design. So it is fully dependent on you. So let's line them up. And then we will choose which one of these will be the front and which one will be the back. So the good thing with the sun lighting is that you can see that this shadow is being casted onto the back product, okay, and that is so good. So with this selected, let's assume that we want to make this our back food pouch, expand that, click on that design and delete it. You can use the delete key in your keyboard. So select this food pouch. So you can navigate show or hide layer just as we did in Adobe Photoshop. Expand the menu and with that selected, go to add graphic. So we want to add this back view. Let's wait for it to load up and make adjustments to the size. Good, we have our back loaded up. Hold down the shift key to scale it down or up. I love Dimension because you really have a lot of control and freedom to do things your way. If you're good in 3D models, in any 3D software, you can go ahead and create your own 3D models. You can also create them in Adobe Photoshop and export them to Adobe Dimension. For this one too, you might want to make some adjustments with the light and all that. By changing its intensity, you can bring it up or down, just depending on what you want to do with it. Maybe you might want to make one of them bigger and the other smaller. Let's just find the best view. So it all depends on how you want to present your work. You don't have to do the exact thing that I've done, okay? Yeah. Maybe we can have that really popping out. I think I love that view. And also you can also change these to make sure that this is in the front, okay? So maybe you might want also to move this a little bit so that you don't hide all the contents. I think I'm good with that. So let's go ahead and render our work. Let me change the rotation of this back design. You can see there's some kind of misalignment and I don't want that. Just slightly. Maybe that's good for me. Hit Ctrl and S to save the changes made. Think it's not responding. Okay, good. There we go. So when you want to render your work, now that we are done with the design, we switch to the render option. So every time you're done with your design, go over and click render. We want to render the current view, which of course is the last view that we had. Okay, so let's go over to render. Remember we saved bookmarks. All our bookmarks are here. Our bookmarks, sorry. The file name is there. The quality is medium. In the export location, just click on that and choose where you want to save your files. And in the export format, we want to have a format that is compatible with Adobe Photoshop as well as a PNG of the same. So that means if you have a PSD file, it means that we can go ahead to Adobe Photoshop and do further editing and retouching to our file, also change the background and all that. So be sure to check the PSD and PNG. We are going to do a medium quality, and so we're going to click render. So depending on the power of your machine, it may take long or just finish in a moment. So our render process is finished in Adobe XD, and you can see that we have a nice product. From your folder, locate the .psd file and open it. So once done, you'll see you have these layers. Remember, we checked the option to also change a PSD file of the same. So you can see that you have the background color. You can change that, but first of all, let's hide the background image. Let's say maybe you want to use a different background. So you can go ahead to change the background color. You double click here. We have the background color and select a color of your choice. Once done, hit OK. You can bring back the background image anytime you want it or replace it with your own. So you can hide that and go ahead into saving this as a PSD file, maybe for further editing in changes with color. You may not have quite a lot of control with the mockup, but you can do adjustments to the background. And that's all about product package design. Thank you so much for joining Design with Markie Season 1. This is Mark Mumangi, your trainer. See you in Season 2.